Hi YouTube, this is Sex Talk. I'm Tracy Cox, and today I'm going to talk about what to do if you're in love with more than one person and having trouble choosing who is the person you should be with. We tend to think we're immune to falling in love with more than one person, but it is definitely possible to love two people at the same time. The human heart is a wonderfully generous organ. Yes, it's not the only one. And if you're a warm, open person who adores meeting new people, you could fall in love with 10 people at once if you let yourself. We've all got the potential. What stops us is commitment to the relationship we're already in and time and energy. It's hard enough making one relationship work, let alone 10 of them simultaneously. Usually, if someone says they're torn between two lovers, they're choosing between an established relationship and a new one. There you are, quite contentedly sailing along with your partner until wham, out of the blue, someone appears who makes your heart thump out of your chest and liquefies your loins. Then you're faced with the huge dilemma. Who should you choose? The tried and true or new and infinitely more exciting? Most long-term relationships go through boring patches, and if you meet someone rather tempting, smack bang in the middle of one, that's when there's trouble. What's even more confusing is it's impossible to compare old love with new love because love feels very different at different stages in the relationship. The new person is on best behaviour. They're showering you with compliments and giving you 100% attention, which is what your old love did in the beginning too. You're meeting the new one on the sly, which makes it even more exciting, and of course they're forbidden, which instantly makes you want them more. While we might love our old love, if you've been together a while, it's more a comfortable sort of feeling. New love is like being on a roller coaster. You're laughing hysterically and screaming from the top of your lungs. It's rather like comparing a pair of worn-in comfy slippers to the brand new heels you bought last week. You might break your neck in the heels, but you can't wait to try them on and strut your stuff. How to make sense of it all? I'd suggest trying the following 5-step plan. Stop seeing the person you've met most recently and put everything you've got into trying to make it work with the person you've been with the longest. Why? Because the biggest mistake you could possibly make is to leave a good relationship, one that could have been saved with a bit of work, for someone who turns out to be not quite as fabulous as you thought. Break up with your old lover because there's no hope for the two of you, not because of someone else. I swear you will regret it otherwise. Most relationships seem promising in the first month or two, but few make it past that. It's quite simple. You have to know what you want in order to get it. Most of us think we know what we're looking for, but few have actually made the effort to reduce our quite airy-fairy ideas into specific needs and wants. To sort out what's really important from what's not, make a relationship wish list. Working out exactly what you want will help make the choice between the two people so much easier. So grab a pen and paper and divide the page. Write wish for on one side and must have on the other side. Then write down what you'd like and what you insist on in the relevant columns. So here are some questions to ask yourself. What's your idea of commitment? Do you want to get married, or would you be happy living together? What about when you have children? How would that alter it? Does it matter if your partner's been married before? Do you want children? Are they essential to your happiness, or are you a little bit ambivalent? What if the person's got children from a previous marriage? Would that matter? Do you want to be joined at the hip or independent? Do you want the sort of relationship where you do everything together, or are you a bit of a free spirit and need the odd separate holiday and lots of time alone? Do you want a monogamous relationship? 90% of us automatically tick yes, but some of you might opt for what I don't know won't hurt me as long as it's not flaunted in my face. What level of intimacy are you looking for? A completely open, share everything type of relationship, or are you happier cruising along on surface level? Think about relationship attitudes and skills. If you're a sentimental, soppy person who gets dewy-eyed during the Kleenex ads, your ideal match isn't going to be the person who didn't bother going to their mother's funeral. Think about their relationship skills. Do you want someone who's easily able and willing to wax lyrical about how much they love you? Who shares their feelings openly and intimately? How much relationship experience do you require? How important is sex to you? A crucial ingredient in a good relationship or a bonus if it turns out to be good? Think about other needs like social. What sort of person do they need to be to fit into your life? Intellectual needs are also important. For a blissful blending of brains, it helps if they're on the same level as you. What about finances? It's not the amount someone earns that's important, but more their attitudes to money. Are you a spender or a saver? Career is important. Again, it's not what profession they're in, but more your attitudes to work. If you work simply to live, someone who lives and breathes their job will bore you silly. Once you have your relationship wish list completed, take a long look at which person fits the bill the best. Another list, I'm afraid. For this one, write down all the things you like about the relationship you're in on one side. On the other side, write down all the things you don't like. Besides each don't like point, tick those things you think you could change if you both worked hard. Put a cross besides those you don't think will alter no matter what both of you do. For instance, doesn't get on with my friends is something you could sort out, so that gets a tick. Go back up to the start of the don't like side and start again, this time rating each point out of 10 on how important it is to you. 1 is not important, 10 is extremely important. Find them unattractive might rate a 10, not getting on with friends might be a 4. When finished, this list represents the state of your relationship and what hope there is of saving it. If the don't like side has mostly crosses and 10s, it means there's a lot you're unhappy with, it's all important to you and largely unfixable. If that's the case, it probably is time to move on. If it's the opposite, the do like side has lots of points and the don't like side lots of ticks and low numbers, stay where you are at least temporarily. There's plenty left to work with, your gripes aren't that important to you, and your attraction to the new person is probably because you're in a rut with your old lover. List the things you like about them, then areas you suspect might cause problems. If you're honest with yourself, your gut instinct should give you a few clues. Write down 10 reasons why you think a relationship with this person would be better than the one you've already got. Are they logical, sensible, long-term reasons, or do they look flimsy to you, even in this deliriously optimistic stage? Now, in most cases, the list will point you pretty obviously in one direction or another. But what's equally as important is your reaction to the decision they're telling you to make. Say the odds are definitely in favour of staying with your old lover. Does the thought of it fill you with joy or dread? It's not going to work if in your heart you don't want it to. You haven't put your finger on the reason yet, but it's there all right. It's pretty obvious you should leave your lover and give it a go with a new person, but that makes you feel utterly terrified. You're probably just scared to take a risk because you're frightened you'll end up alone. And don't forget there is a third option, don't choose either of them. Could be the solution is to stay single for a while until you're really sure where your heart lies. Hi, I'm Tracy Cox, this is Sex Talk, and today I'm going to talk about jealousy, the green-eyed monster that, it has to be said, lives within us all. But for reasons we're about to discuss, rears its ugly head with some people more than others. It's not pleasant being jealous or being with a jealous person, so it's something I thought worth tackling. And for the record, I was an intensely jealous person at one stage of my life, and now I'm not. So take hope. You can get over it by doing certain things if you really want to. And you do want to, believe me, because here's the thing. And if you're an extremely jealous person prepared to hyperventilate, fact 1, jealousy won't stop people being unfaithful. It makes it more likely they will be. If you accuse someone often enough of having an affair or fancying so-and-so, they eventually think, hey, they believe it, I might as well do it. Fact number 2, the biggest fear of a jealous person is that their partner will leave them. But if you continue to make their life hell, they probably will. Feeling paranoid? Good. Let these 2 facts sink in and you might well decide it's time to tame that green-eyed monster. There's another reason why it's a brilliant idea to get jealousy under control. If you're a jealous person and in love, life is pretty bloody miserable most of the time. I've been there. I, like you, spent every minute of every day looking for evidence. A car parked down the street can't belong to a neighbour. It must be a secret lover visiting my boyfriend. His phone's engaged at work. He's not talking business. He's whispering sweet nothings to someone else. A girlfriend of mine used to put hairs across her phone to see if her boyfriend was making any dodgy calls while she popped out to get the milk. They were in the days when you had landlines, by the way. Some people ask their friends to come onto their partners to see if they'd take them up on it. An extremely silly thing to do, since it can spark an unacknowledged attraction that would never have surfaced if you hadn't forced them into it. A psychiatrist told me about a patient who wired up his entire house with microphones so he could tape the supposed sex sessions his wife had while he was at work. They weren't rich and he spent their life savings doing it. All he recorded, by the way, was her doing the dishes and gossiping on the phone to girlfriends. Bang went that holiday they'd been saving years for. You can pick the couple where one or both partners are jealous. They don't go out. The only stress-free environment is to stay home with a movie and a bottle of wine, because any public place, pubs, restaurants, even shopping, has potential rivals. Some people can't even bear watching their partners watching attractive people on television. Even the news becomes a problem if the newsreader happens to be attractive. Ha, I hear you say, I'm nowhere near that bad. True, or maybe not, but you do need to solve the problem now while you can. Jealousy is insidious. It grows like a weed and only needs the odd drop of water to spread. It's dangerous to think you're in control. Everyone gets jealous occasionally. Match a normal person with someone who presses all the wrong buttons and they might become outrageously jealous, but only with that person. Sometimes jealousy and distrustfulness are warranted. If your partner's got a history of playing around, you're wise to keep your eyes open. But truly distrustful people experience jealousy with each and every person they go out with. Because of this rather obvious fact, most jealous people know they're the ones with the problem. Once they've calmed down, they realise they've been irrational. But when you're in the middle of a jealous rage, that's when you lose all sense of logic and perspective. Jealousy is an incredibly powerful emotion. You can't control it because it's being fed by one continuous thought. Is my partner being unfaithful to me? That's why you start opening their mail, listening in on phone calls and interrogating your partner when they're 5 minutes late. You've got two choices if you've got a real problem with jealousy. Get professional help or try to help yourself. Now this will help you try to help yourself, but if it doesn't work, always seek help, and there's info on good places to start in the description box. Identify the reason. Try to pinpoint the reasons why you're jealous. Is it insecurity? Something that happened in your childhood, your past, your own cheating history? Because if you cheat on others, you'll know people have the ability to cheat on you. Or is it a combination of all of those things? Work on your self-esteem. The more highly you think of yourself, the less likely you'll believe your partner would dream of risking you and your relationship by playing around with someone else. This is a proven program that can help solve jealousy problems. It's hard work and it's not instant, but it solved my jealousy problem, so hopefully it will yours. Now, the plan only works if you do it every single time you have a jealous thought. You need to follow it faithfully, religiously, and without exception. Doing it every second time or even 4 out of 5 times renders it totally ineffective. It will take over your life for a few weeks or months, depending on how jealous you are. It means you have to carry a notepad and pen wherever you go. It might mean you'll be disappearing to the loo a dozen times during a dinner party. But even if it meant taking off your clothes and dancing naked at the local bus stop, it's worth giving it a go. If you have a good relationship with your partner, it's sensible to tell them what you're doing. If they love you and want the problem fixed as much as you do, believe me, more than you do, they will support and cover for you when you have to disappear. You might also consider telling close friends to explain any long absences while you're out together. But don't make the mistake of turning this into a party trick. It's acceptable to do this exercise with your partner after you've done it alone at least a dozen times. It's even okay to work it through with a best friend, but no more than one person at a time, because otherwise you'll just feel silly, they'll make hurtful jokes and it will backfire big time. Being jealous isn't fun. It's degrading and it's humiliating, so you can do without being teased and trivialised. Ready, willing and yes you are able, here's how to do it. Every time you have a jealous thought, write it down and rate how strongly you believe it on a scale of 1 to 10. For example, my boyfriend is chatting up the girl behind the bar. 9 out of 10 would mean I'm certain this is true. Now, underneath this sentence, I want you to list all the reasons why you believe it. Think of as many reasons as possible. Well, he's been talking to her for ages, much longer than necessary. He smiled at her. He gave her that look. She's his type. She's really attractive. Everyone else at the table looked really embarrassed, like they knew what was happening and felt sorry for me. Even if you know how silly it sounds as you're writing all this down, write it all down. Then you just need to wait for 2 minutes, that's all it takes, and dwell a little bit longer on how upset and angry you feel. Deliberately stay in the rage point a little while so every single one of those paranoid thoughts comes to the surface for you to write down. Beside these reasons, we're now going to write logical alternative explanations. So wait another 2 minutes, but this time you're going to try to calm down. So breathe deeply. Remind yourself of how you felt after the last jealous rage, which was probably unjustified. Then force yourself to challenge each and every point you've listed with a logical explanation. Now, if you find this difficult, imagine your best friend is there with you. How might she or he challenge those thoughts? Write down the explanations even if you don't believe what you're writing. For instance, he's been talking to her for ages. Well, it might seem like a long time, but that could be because my judgment is way off. He smiled at her. He's friendly and polite. I also smile at people in that sort of situation. He gave her that look. Let's face it, I'd interpret any sort of friendly expression as that look. Keep doing all this and don't stop until you've listed a plausible, remotely believable explanation for every single reason you think you've got jealous. Now read through what you've written, focusing on the logical explanations, and re-rate how strongly you now believe the initial thought. Accept that there's as much possibility they are true as your jealousy-inspired accusations. Keep going. The more logical explanations you can think of, the better. So try to list at least 2, preferably 3 explanations next to every single jealous thought. Again, re-rate how strongly you now believe the initial thought. Don't rejoin your partner until you've reduced your initial rating, for example 9 out of 10, at least 1 point or 1 or 2 points. Don't be alarmed if the minute you walk out of wherever you've been hiding, it all comes flooding back and you shoot straight back up to 9 out of 10. Just congratulate yourself that you regained a small amount of control when normally you would have stormed out immediately. Now you're back in the situation, see how you feel. If you have to ignore your partner or look in the other directions to stay calm, just do it. If your partner's aware you're following this program, tell them why you've been gone so long. Let them give your hand a squeeze even if you can't squeeze it back. Try to smile when they reassure you you've got nothing to worry about, then simply change the topic. Now, if you still feel out of control, repeat the exercise or simply leave. Go back and work through everything one more time. If it's not working, go home with or without your partner and try again there. Now, you need to keep repeating this exercise. If you're an extremely jealous person, it will have little or no effect during the first few weeks. 1 month on, you'll notice a small improvement. 2 months on, however, you will notice a significant change. 3 months on, you are well on the road to living life as non-jealous people do. So please don't give up. Keep writing things down until you can do the exercise mentally. Follow exactly the same steps, but do it in your head rather than on paper. And one miraculous day, you will find your brain does the exercise for you without you even being conscious of it happening. What's happened then is that your brain has been trained to challenge silly thoughts with logic, and it starts working through the process subconsciously and automatically. This is how non-jealous people's brains work. Their subconscious sees a potentially threatening situation, but before they're even aware of it, the logical side of their brain kicks in and dismisses the idea if it's not based on reality. Now, if there is good reason to be jealous, the thought will filter through anyway, so don't panic. You won't suddenly stop seeing real threats, you will just stop seeing those that aren't. This really helped me with my jealousy problem, so I really hope it works on yours. Stick with it.